A Lifetime Endeavor. August 15th, 1979. In one of the monastic rules of conduct, monks are forbidden from calling out loudly when they want to get other monks' attention. They should instead signal with their hands, because the Lord Buddha wanted them to have a quiet environment to meditate. During the Lord Buddha's time, the monks took up meditation as their lifetime endeavor. But nowadays, most of the monks and the laity don't. The Lord Buddha and the noble disciples or sāvakas taught only the practice of walking and sitting meditation, the places that were suitable for the meditation practices, and the methods used to eliminate the kilesas, tanha, and asava. The main topics of conversation that the monks had during the Lord Buddha's time were the Dhamma, which means cleansing or purifying. It's the cleansing of the kilesas from their conduct, speech, and thought. They should only be talking about cleansing and eliminating the kilesas because they took up the robe for this purpose, and not to accumulate the kilesas. Right now, you only have the appearance of one who has gone forth. Originally, going forth was for the purpose of destroying all the kilesas, tanha, and asava. If you believe in this ideal but are not doing any practice, you'll instead accumulate more kilesas and defy the Dhamma Vinaya. As a practitioner, you must strictly adhere to the Dhamma teaching that has been recorded in the scriptures and use it as your guide. The purpose of recording and preserving the Lord Buddha's teaching is to serve as a guiding light for those who are interested in the practice of mental development. Had it not been recorded, you wouldn't know how the Lord Buddha and the noble disciples practiced and became enlightened. Nowadays, you only study the scriptures and do not do any practice. All that you have learned are the descriptions of the Magga, Phala, and Nibbana. If your goal in studying the scriptures and practicing mental development is to become a famous guru, you'll unknowingly accumulate more kilesas and reject the goal set for you by the Lord Buddha. You should seriously think about this. You shouldn't rely solely on your teacher's instruction because it's not enough to make you wise. How do you become wise? You have to do a lot of investigation, analysis, and reflection, and be always mindful of the sense objects that come into contact with your eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and heart. If you don't use your sati and panya, you'll never gain any wisdom. The Lord Buddha and the Sāvakas gained wisdom through their sati, panya, saddha, and virya. They didn't become wise by being idle and hopeless. When doing walking meditation, they didn't let their mind think aimlessly like the way you're doing, which is no different from people who don't practice walking meditation. Sati and panya connect to form a formidable weapon to free your heart from the kilesas' oppression. Saddha is the belief in the Magga and Phala, and the belief that having faithfully followed the Lord Buddha's teaching, you will become enlightened. You should always practice with diligent effort or virya to develop your sati or mindfulness and investigate with panya. If you always maintain your diligent effort, you'll never get tired of fighting the kilesas or be discouraged from developing your sati and panya. The citta is the real thing. The body is merely a phenomenon. When you practice meditation whilst walking back and forth without any mindfulness, you're like people who go for a stroll, not like someone who practices meditation. But you're worse than them if you practice walking meditation without any mindfulness. You mustn't walk like that. The Lord Buddha's teaching, which has been recorded in the scriptures, can be very useful for your practice if you reflect on it with your sati and panya. However, usually you don't reflect on it, but merely chant it like a parrot chirping, "Precious stone, precious stone." When you give a parrot a precious stone, it doesn't know what to do with it, because it only knows about fruits such as bananas. You're like a parrot because you don't know the perils inherent in the kilesas, tanha, and asava that you're passionately obsessed with and never seem to have enough of. You also don't know the worth of Dhamma, which is like a precious stone. That's why you never want to have anything to do with the Dhamma like applying your diligent effort. When you do walking meditation, your knees become weak, and when you do sitting meditation, it seems as if your bones and your body are bursting apart. When you develop sati and investigate with panya to remove the harmful kilesas, you become weak and discouraged and let the kilesas trample all over you and knock you out. All you can think is, This is hopeless. I have been striving so hard, but I can never enter into calm. So while you're doing walking or sitting meditation, your practice just turns in the Kilesas' favor because it's being driven by the Kilesas, not by the Dhamma. So how can you ever become enlightened? This is the way you should reflect if you want to gauge your success or failure. If you think with Panya, you'll know how far you've progressed in your practice. You should think, today I have walked and sat in meditation. How were my citta and satipanya? Did I merely walk like people going for a stroll, or sit casually? When people sit casually, it's not as bad as when I sit hopelessly and unmindfully. When I meditate, I should be striving for freedom from dukkha, and should always remind myself of this goal. You mustn't be complacent, because there's no reason in this world for you to be so. The Lord Buddha had always taught you to refrain from acquiring worldly possessions and pleasures, because they are like fire. He said that they are all anicca, dukkha, and anatta, and are all unreliable, so you mustn't be attached to them. If you cling to them, it'll be like clinging to fire. The correct way to deal with them is to always reflect on their anicca, dukkha, and anatta nature. If you're attached to them, you'll always be afflicted with dukkha. The intensity of dukkha varies with the intensity of your attachment. There is no other endeavor for you but the practice of sitting and walking meditation. You should always watch your heart with satipanya if you want to catch the Kilesas' tricks and deceptions, because satipanya is an indispensable tool for catching them. With satipanya, you'll always detect the Kilesas in whatever form they might appear in the heart, be it raga or dosa, lust or anger, because the heart is the one who knows and satipanya is the one who analyzes. You have to focus your attention at the heart in order to see the cause and the effect of dukkha. But you mustn't merely wish them to disappear, for this is tanha, or craving. If you want dukkha to vanish, you'll have to find and remove the cause of dukkha. Otherwise, dukkha will not disappear, but will intensify to the point where you won't be able to endure it. For this reason, it's absolutely vital for you to watch your heart. I've tried my best to provide you with the opportunity to practice. I'm very protective of you and really care for you. I truly cherish the reclusive life and the meditation practice which I've devoted my entire life to. The results are really satisfying because it released me from dukkha after I eliminated all of the kilesas from my heart with my satipanya, something not beyond your own ability. I'd really like to see you realize all levels of Dhamma attainments, beginning with samadhi. What is samadhi really like? What kind of calm and coolness? If satipanya is constantly focused at the citta and observing it, then the citta won't have time to produce any harmful thoughts to hurt you, and will eventually enter into calm. When the citta becomes reckless and stubborn, then you must use the various techniques of satipanya to restrain it, because satipanya is superior to the kilesas. This is panya develops samadhi. When the kilesas are extremely wild, you must put all of your effort into taming the citta. It's a life-or-death situation. You must subdue the kilesas with your satipanya until the citta withdraws inside and calms down. I can confidently relate to you the experience realized from my meditation practice. When the citta became very reckless with lust, raga, I had to subdue it with my satipanya until I was in tears before I could see its harmfulness. When I sat for a long time until the pain became very excruciating, I had to use satipanya to investigate the body. If I was using a mantra, or being mindful of my breathing, I had to stop doing it when the dukkha vedana attacked with its full force. I had to continually investigate dukkha vedana with my satipanya like two boxers punching each other. You can't afford to be off guard, because when you are, you'll be vulnerable. It's the same way with your investigation. You must probe and analyze until you find and eliminate the cause of dukkha. After you've achieved this, how can the citta's spectacular nature not appear? There is nothing in this world that could be more spectacular than a developed citta. On the other hand, there is nothing in this world that could be worse than an undeveloped citta. The citta is very important because it's the indispensable container for all the different levels of Dhamma, especially the Magga, Phala, and Nibbana. You must therefore strive to develop the citta. When you fast, you should really concentrate on your meditation practice. Your exertion should be more strenuous than it would normally be. Fasting or reducing your food intake is a means of developing your mindfulness or sati. If fasting suits you, it'll make your practice easier and more fruitful than when you eat normally. If it doesn't suit you, it won't help your practice because you'll be thinking about food all the time rather than about your practice. When you fast, your body will become light, your citta nimble and alert, your mindfulness ever-present, and you will experience no sleepiness. You'll see that your sleepiness comes from eating a lot of food. After fasting for 2 or 3 days, there will be no drowsiness left. You'll sit erect like a post, and your citta will enter into calm very easily. There is nothing to bother your citta. When you develop panya, it will flow very easily, spinning round and round. Regardless of the Dhamma level you're in, the methods of practice like fasting will always promote your progress if they suit your temperament. If they don't, they will become a hindrance. You shouldn't speculate about things that you haven't yet experienced in your heart, like imagining what Karnika Samadhi is like, what Upacara Samadhi is like, what Appana Samadhi is like, or what the citta's convergence into complete concentration is like. This is just imagination that will lead you away from the heart who is the one to experience and develop them, be it any kind of samadhi. The point is never to speculate what Karnika Samadhi, Upacara Samadhi, or Appana Samadhi are like, other than experiencing the truth of these samadhis yourself, because this is the correct way to do it. It's like describing what a particular dish of food is like. Whether it's sweet or not really doesn't matter. Even a child who hasn't had any schooling about culinary matters will know if the food is delicious or not when he eats it. It's the same with samadhi. You have to experience it by developing it yourself. It doesn't depend on your speculation. That is useless and wastes your time. Be it any kind of samadhi, you'll get to know it yourself. You'll know what kind of samadhi suits you when you've developed it with your mindfulness and strenuous effort. After you've entered into calm, you'll know what it's like and how to achieve it. Normally the citta likes to think a lot because it's always restless and agitated like a monkey. But when you've developed sati to control your citta, like when you've continually concentrated on your mantra or any other meditation object, then the citta won't have the chance to think aimlessly and will calm down. Whatever kind of calm it may be, you'll know it, as well as the happiness, ease, and comfort that accompany it, be it karnika, upacara, or appana. The important point is never to speculate about them, because it's a waste of time and a hindrance to your meditation practice, especially when you're investigating for the truth. What you've studied from the scriptures or heard from your teacher are all speculation. If you apply it in your investigation, you'll ruin it and never become enlightened. The citta will unknowingly think that it's the truth. Therefore, you mustn't let your speculation interfere with your investigation. If you want to become enlightened, you must always attentively watch your citta. You're practicing citta bhavana, or mental development. You are not practicing for the development of mental delusion. If you constantly study the citta, you'll see clearly that the citta is the knowingness, or the one who knows. The Lord Buddha had to give about 84,000 different discourses to suit the needs of thousands of his devotees, who are like patients afflicted with different kinds of diseases. Is it practical for a doctor to use only one kind of medicine to treat all of his patients? Of course not. He must have many kinds of medicines to treat his patients. It's the same with the Lord Buddha, who couldn't give just one discourse to all of his devotees. The important point is never to speculate about the citta, but to know it from your practice. In order to be firm and stable, you have to be firm in your development of samadhi and mindfulness. Your diligent effort is crucial for achieving your samadhi, or mental stability, which is vital for the investigation for insight or vipassana. With a calm citta, your investigation with panya will be easy because the citta won't be distracted with cravings. Samadhi is the citta's nourishment that will keep it calm, cool, and contented. When you investigate, your satipanya will perform at full capacity, and you will become enlightened. You can take my words for it, because I've already experienced it myself. There are many levels of panya, but you shouldn't speculate about them. Panya will become skillful, quick, alert, sharp, and penetrating if it's being continually developed. You must develop Panya to eradicate the kilesas if you want to achieve the goal of your going forth. You mustn't be unmindful when you do sitting or walking meditation. If you do, you'll unknowingly prostrate yourself to the kilesas. All of your thoughts will be manipulated by the kilesas. Instead of eliminating the kilesas, you'll accumulate more of them. So you must never surrender because you're a fighter. You have to be serious and earnest in your practice. There's nothing more important than the activities of the citta. It's here where you'll have to focus your observation. The two mental components that are constantly active are sankhara, or mental concoctions, and sanya, or memory. Sanya is much more subtle than sankhara because it doesn't have to concoct. It just recollects. It's similar to water that permeates through the ground. Sanya will subtly recall information and mental images. Both sanya and sankhara are anicca, dukkha, and anatta. If you don't know their true nature and what they are up to, they'll be used by the kilesas to deceive you. You have to be resolute and earnest with your practice. I would really love to see you experience samadhi and panya because they are what you've devoted your effort for. The experiences that you've heard from your teachers and fellow practitioners are not your own yet. They are like merchandise in the market that you haven't yet bought because you haven't got any money. All that you can do is look at them. It's the same with the Lord Buddha's experiences like samadhi, panya, magga, phala, and nibbana that you can only admire. Although you might have studied the scriptures a lot and you're very proud of it, just what have you achieved? All that you've accomplished was to commit the scriptural knowledge into your memory without a single kilesa being eliminated from your heart. If you don't practice, you'll never experience samadhi, panya, magga, phala, and nibbana, which you've memorized. Please understand this and get into your practice. If you develop panya, you'll get panya. You mustn't let other tasks distract you from your practice, because 99% of them are kilesas. When you're not serious and earnest with your practice, then it will be 99% kilesas. If the kilesas have 99 weapons and Dhamma has only one weapon, you won't be able to fight them. So you must develop lots of Dhamma weapons by practicing seriously and earnestly. When you investigate the body, you shouldn't investigate perfunctorily, but investigate for true knowledge and insight. How many times you've investigated doesn't matter. You have to compel the citta to keep on investigating and not allow it to do anything else until you've achieved your goal. This is the way to make the kilesas surrender. When you fight them by putting your life at stake in your investigation for the truth, the kilesas will have to give up because your satipanya is more powerful than the kilesas. You'll see this very clearly. How can the kilesas be stronger than the satipanya taught by the Lord Buddha? When the kilesas are forceful, your satipanya, or the magga, which is the suitable weapon for defeating the kilesas, must also be equally forceful. When the kilesas are less forceful, then magga will also equally be less forceful. This happens in the early stages of practice when the citta is restless and agitated. It's like taming a buffalo, which will eventually have to surrender to the tamer. It's the same with the kilesas, which will eventually have to yield to your satipanya and diligent effort. It will become weaker, whilst satipanya becomes stronger. The citta can then establish peace and coolness as its support. There won't be any restlessness and agitation that are like smoldering fire left inside the heart, like the fire that burns the rice husks. You have to extinguish this fire with your diligent effort. When the citta has attained to calm, it will have coolness as its support. This happened to me. The important thing is not to be idle. You must keep on practicing. When you sit meditating for calm and samadhi, or when you investigate with panya, you have to do it earnestly. If you're mindful in your investigation, you'll gradually discover the ways and techniques of removing your delusion and achieving insight. Investigating with mindfulness is crucial for realizing knowledge and insight. Whatever you do, you should always investigate and analyze. This is the way of developing panya. In the beginning stages of developing samadhi, it's very hard, but you mustn't give up. If you do, you won't succeed. If you persist, you will eventually achieve calm. When you investigate with Panya, you should first investigate the body, your body and other people's body, to see that they are the living dead. Do you want to live with these living dead? Our bodies are the living dead. Are they beautiful? Are they real? Of course they're not. When you investigate on asubha, loathsomeness, and patikula, filthiness, you'll find that these bodies are loathsome and filthy. When you investigate on death, anicca, and suffering, dukkha, you'll see that these bodies will age, get sick, and die. This world is the world of the dead. You're just waiting for your death like animals waiting in line to be slaughtered. Once you're born, you're targeted by death. Death has already laid claim on you, whether you're a man or a woman, young or old. Some will die today, some tomorrow, and so on. You have to investigate until you see this truth if you want to develop panya to impact your heart. You've already been branded by death, but you don't know this because you're too preoccupied with your pursuit of happiness. You're like the cows and buffaloes that have been branded for slaughter. Anicca, or impermanence, is constantly putting its brand on you. The sound that arises from this branding can be heard across the universe. That's how loud this branding is if it can be compared to a sound. If you listen, it will break your ears and burst your brain because the effect of anicca, dukkha, and anatta can shake the whole world. Every part of your body is continually branded with the mark of dukkha, anicca, and anatta. Even when you're sleeping, they never stop. They do it when you think, "Oh, this food is delicious." Do you know this? You have to investigate until you're truly impressed by this truth. Anicca is impermanence. It's the truth or the law of the Vartacakka, the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. You must investigate until you can see this clearly. You must take control of your heart because it's your only real possession. Don't pickle it with the brine of anicca, dukkha, and anatta. You must free it from your delusion that makes you cling and crave for the non-essentials that are immersed in the mire of anicca, dukkha, and anatta. What good can you find from things immersed in the mire? Even a solid bar of gold, once immersed in the mire, will not look good. The heart is much more precious than a bar of gold. When it's immersed in the mire of greed, hatred, and delusion, how can it become precious? You should therefore free your heart from the mire of anicca, dukkha, and anatta that constantly oppresses your heart. When you've seen the truth of anatta, you'll see that there are no people, animals, I, or they to cling to. You should earnestly investigate to see the truth clearly inside your heart and should not oppose the Dhamma teaching, because it is the truth. The kilesas and Dhamma will always oppose one another. The kilesas will make your views and understanding differ from the Dhamma teaching, and will destroy the Dhamma teaching without you being aware of it. When you have clearly seen the truth, your citta will defeat the kilesas. It will be firm and resolute like a warrior. Your exertion will be very intense. Your satipanya will probe relentlessly until you see all the truth. When panya starts to investigate, it will first probe the entire world to see without any doubt that everything is all made up of the four physical elements of earth, water, wind, and fire. When you have seen this truth, you'll let go of them. After that, the scope of your investigation will become narrower, because the kilesas and your delusions are fewer. Satipanya will now focus on the 5 khandhas, separating and identifying them. Its goal is to see the rupa khandha or body as merely a body, the vedana khandha or feelings as merely the 3 kinds of feelings of sukha, pleasant, dukkha, unpleasant, and neutral, sanya as merely sanya, sankhara as merely sankhara, and vinyarna as merely vinyarna. The 4 mental aggregates, or nama khandha, have a similar nature. When you investigate one of them and see its true nature, you'll also see the true nature of the other 3. Once you've clearly seen their true nature, how can you not let go of them? You'll let go of them because the reason you've been clinging to them is simply because you didn't know their true nature. The goal of your meditation practice is enlightenment, insight into your true nature, and insight into the nature of your delusion that causes you to cling to anicca, dukkha, and anatta. When you have clearly seen the truth of the five khandhas, satipanya will then probe inside the citta, because there is nothing outside to investigate anymore. The scope of the investigation and the kilesas will converge into the citta, where the kilesas will be completely eliminated. When they are completely removed, what is left? Gone is anicca, gone is dukkha, and gone is anatta. Everything is let go of and left as it is. These three characteristics inherent in all conditioned phenomena, anicca, dukkha, and anatta, are the path to nibbana. When you've arrived at nibbana, these three characteristics will lose their usefulness. Like, when you travel on the road and arrive at your destination, the road that led you to your destination will become superfluous. It's the same with the citta when it travels on the path of anicca, dukkha, and anatta until arriving at its destination, after which those three factors will serve no useful purpose. Your investigation that was spinning like a Dhamma wheel will stop, because all the kilesas have been destroyed. This was the endeavor of the Dhamma practitioners during the Lord Buddha's time. They attained Magga, Phala, and Nibbana in the forest and on the mountains because they practiced for the elimination of the kilesas. They knew that wealth and status were lures that would lead them to insanity, and knew that the kilesas were the ones that enticed them with wealth and status. What can be more precious than the Dhamma? You should fight the kilesas until you become enlightened. You'll then let go of everything. Wealth and status are kid stuff, like children's toys. After you've become enlightened, you'll relinquish everything because they are all sammati, or supposition. Enlightenment is the most satisfying result. It's the fruits of your uphill struggle from start to finish, and the fruits of training, disciplining, developing, protecting, and nourishing yourself with the Dhamma that you should value more than anything else. You must consider the practice of mental development to be your most important endeavor, and must not do other work or activities just to alleviate your annoyance, as this will only serve to increase your frustration. When the citta has achieved the ultimate goal, it will be blissful, and all problems will come to an end. The practice of mental development will also come to an end. It's not like the worldly undertakings that have no end. You'll do them until you die, and carry with you to your next life all of your worries, confusions, and miseries. You'll never find any lasting happiness, ease, and comfort. But if you've accomplished the practice of mental development, you'll lose all your worries. This is analayo, totally free of worries, because you've left all things as they are, even your body. Whatever should happen to it, you'll let it happen. You've already learned the nature of your body and know that it's anicca, dukkha, and anatta, just like Vedana, Citta, and Dhamma. The Lord Buddha said that you must let go of all Dhammas at the final stage of practice. When you haven't yet arrived at your destination, don't let go of the path yet. But after you have arrived at your destination, you must let go of the path. You must not cling to it. All Dhammas refers here to all the sammati Dhammas, or relative truths. When you've reached the final stage of practice, you'll let go of the path. At this stage, the citta will become very subtle, and it will be totally immersed in the investigation. But when it realizes that all Dhammas are anatta, the citta will completely let go of them. After you've passed beyond anicca, dukkha, and anatta, what is this state? This isn't sammati, and you won't describe it, because you know it's indescribable. This is the ultimate truth. You can't describe it, but you know what it is. You know this is the great sage, although it doesn't say it is so.